As part of the new segment to the show called the Compass Literature Corner, we will be talking to local authors and writers who have had an impact on this region or whom this region has had an impact on. This week's guest is not one, but two writers with us, a husband and wife writing duo. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to say that today's guests are Jim and Marianne Zarzana. Jim, Marianne, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So, you guys are the author, well, I'm sorry, Jim is the author of the Marsko Dissident Saga. However, before we go into that, I want to talk a little bit about you two and being a married couple that writes together.
Well, we were talking about this in the car. I mean, literature has been part of our relationship from the very beginning. Literally the first thing we talked about. She parked next to me in a parking lot, and we walked into a prayer service together, and we were talking about literature. She thought I was a professor, actually. I was a graduate student. And she said, "Oh, do you know this professor and that professor?" So from the very beginning, our relationship, literature has been part of our relationship. At the time I was finishing my doctorate, this was the University of Notre Dame, so I was finishing a doctorate in English literature, and Marianne was an editor with Notre Dame Publications, so worked for the university and started with that. So
what about the dynamic of writing and marriage seems to go hand in hand for you guys?
I would say that writing is so central to who we are as people, and the fact that we can give each other permission, that it's not, that some painting needs to be done or this needs to be done, household chore, that our priorities have always been our writing, whether it's been, for me, professional writing, grant writing, my freelance writing, and now since I went back to graduate school at Minnesota State University in Mankato to get my MFA in creative writing, we've always given each other that time, that space, that support, that feedback. Could you please look at my poem? Listen to the poem. I would tape my poems up on the kitchen cabinets for Jim to comment on, for our daughter to comment on, and I proofread his dissertation, and we're just always there for each other.
Tell me, how has your marriage helped you with your saga then, Jim?
Well, we always talk politics. I mean, we've never shied away from talking about anything, and the book is very political, and we just always tossed around ideas. Even when Elaine was growing up, our daughter, who's 31, so we never shied away from talking about topics, and so the book percolates with contemporary issues, as you know, and so that was part of it. And again, the permission to write. And then I'd throw a few ideas, is this going to work? What do you think about this? But one of the little expressions in the book is, it's a Marsko world, and we've adapted that. We'll see something in the newspaper, and, it'll be sitting there on the table, circled, read this, how Marsko, and go, oh, they're mining asteroids or putting implants in people or something. So I think we're both aware of what I'm doing in the saga, and looking for ideas of things, and how to integrate it, or would this work. But again, the biggest thing is permission. I had permission to do that much work. I mean, there's 4 books, 2 are published, 2 are coming, and that's a lot of writing. So they're all written. I'm editing the last 2, and they go back 20 years. I started them 20 years ago, but even then there were a lot of political issues. I think the refugee issue was more international and offshore. It wasn't so much domestic as it is, in the headlines today. But a major set of characters in the book are called PRIMS, and it's an acronym. That was a situation where I thought, well, let's put them next door. Let's put them down the street and separate them, and guards, and what we call a stop line, which is the dividing line between people in Marsko and people not. And so it really started with looking at the world situation and exaggerating, and just simply exaggerating it. And so unfortunately, some of those exaggerations have become more and more front page news, and in some cases more ominous. So but lots of things, the space travel, mining the asteroids, having a colony on Mars, having a colony on the moon, are almost there. We're almost there. I think certainly within our lifetime, we should see people living on the moon. I mean, people living in a space station. So some aspects of that weren't so far-fetched. The microchips planted under your skin, we do that for our pets. And the big hook with the Marsco world is you need implants to run the computers, and that's what separates people and keeps people in or out of Marsco is who can run the computer. So everything, you think of our cell phones, our computers, everything. If you needed permission from Marsco to run a computer, how limiting that would be if they said, no, you're in, you're out. And so that was a big exaggeration, but it's not that far-fetched, Yeah.
So, Marianne, how have you helped Jim with this series?
Well, I would say just the fact that he can bounce ideas off of me, I can make suggestions, I can circle things in the newspaper, whatever, it's just kind of a, organic process where it's his book. We're not co-writing it at all, but
I've asked you some questions about the relationships.
Yeah.
How would these people react? What do you think about this?
And I do feel like the characters are so real that Tessa, Zot, Walter Miller, it's like they're part of our family.
Well, where can our viewers get a copy of your book? Amazon?
Amazon, you can put it on a Kindle. You can put it on any Kindle-ready download platform that you have. You can order the copy. And there are two I do want to see. There's book one, book two. And I helped design both covers. I love the covers. There you go.
Well, pick up book one and start your journey into the Marsco world. That's it for us in the Compass Literature Corner. Please tune in next week for more people, places, and issues facing our viewing area. I'm Pioneer's Laura K. Prosser, and may your compass always point you in the direction of a good book.
Major support for Compass is provided by the ongoing support of the Leo P. Flynn Estate of Millbank, South Dakota. Additional support is provided by the Southwest Minnesota Private Industry Council, promoting Southwest Minnesota as a place rich with opportunity. Come for the jobs, stay for the lifestyle. More information at swmnpic.org.